Hey everybody, my name is James Rumley, a solutions engineer here at Acronis, and we are here to talk about Acronis PSA, formerly Advanced Automation. Before we dive into the demo and the speeds and feeds of it, let's talk about Acronis PSA. Start by noting that it's part of the Acronis CyberProtect Cloud Console, an all-in-one platform built for MSPs. On the side, you see we are on the operations portion, right? And the PSA and automation tool exists there. Next, it's important to briefly discuss why we built Acronis PSA. First, traditional PSA solutions are often overly complex, costly to deploy and maintain, making them unsuitable for many MSPs and leading to underutilization. Another common issue is invoicing and billing, especially for recurring and utilization-based services. This process becomes time-consuming and prone to human error because MSPs frequently rely on Excel spreadsheets for billing. Finally, reporting is another major pain point. Many MSPs struggle to create meaningful reports and extract actionable insights, which impacts critical decisions in both sales, finance, and potentially service delivery as well. And that's where Acronis PSA comes in. It's an easy to deploy, adopt, and use professional services automation solution tailored for modern, recurring, and cloud-based MSP business models. The quickest benefit that you get in automation is billing and invoicing of all Acronis services. Not just billing for one part, Acronis PSA includes everything you need from a PSA. A service desk, contract quotation management, stock inventory, project management. It also has meaningful insight reporting via our analytics and our KPI reports. As a result, the Acronis PSA, you will take with you the shortest path to increase profits and streamline business operations. On this slide, you can see an overview of what you get with Acronis PSA. First of all, it's universal billing and invoicing automation. By universal, we mean you can consolidate all of the service charges, including software usage, staff hours, hardware sales, into a single invoice. And importantly, you can automate usage-based billing for Acronis and Microsoft ZSP Tier 1 services in just a few clicks. It's easy to integrate with popular accounting softwares and support for online payments. Robust service desk solution that manages tickets from creation to resolution and aggregate tickets from multiple resources. The ability to track technical work from all your technicians for time and efficiency, and to make sure restrictions all align with your SLAs. Tools to plan and execute projects by defining and scheduling clear phases and steps. The ability to create and send managed sales quotes efficiently. Contract management for all clients. Stock inventory management, sales and tracking and analysis. Seamless integration with Acronis RMM is a built-in solution or pre-built integrations with third-party RMMs. And to set a customizable service desk and financial KPI reports to enhance profitability and enable data-driven decision-making. To emphasize the platform's advantage of the Acronis PSA, the platform approach is not just a vision, it's a reality. You now have all components, RMM, PSA, security, backups, DR, all in one console. However, we don't require that you use all of the Acronis components. You can integrate third-party solutions for RMM, security, and more. Now let's go ahead and proceed to the Acronis PSA demo. So first and foremost, once Acronis PSA is enabled at the partner level, we get two options. Task management, again, that is ticketing and time tracking, and project management, and then the sales and billing portion for the contracts, sales items, invoicing and billing, etc. So let's go ahead and hop into that sales and billing piece. The first thing that we need to configure when using Acronis PSA is our product catalog and the cost therein. So within our products catalog, we're automatically going to be able to pull over everything that is a consumed service from Acronis, right? It's going to come over as a zero value, right? So it's not going to have any cost or price associated with it. But we have a tool that allows us to update versus the commitment tier that we are going to be billing at and going through Acronis with. So we can see here that the CyberFiles Cloud and the per GB billing mode has a price and a cost of X, as we have already populated that at the 250 commit tier, but we can see if we were to change to a separate commit tier, right, the price will change and will update in real time. We can also set margins globally across all of the consumed services. These are all also editable, so you could change your margin percentage on a line by line item. But we can see here that the cyber files cost per GB and price changed once we changed our commit tier. We are also able to uh, add products, right? So these can be one-time charges. These could be a part of a service bundle or a contract that we're going to build out and show later. So we could do something along the lines of, a NAS, right? So then this will be for QNAP. And we can just use that as the description. Certainly it is fairly self-representative. We'll say that this particular item costs $450. We will go ahead and add the tax because certainly we will be taxed when purchasing it. That would actually be the cost of 450, and we're going to say, sorry, that we are going to actually, build out a specific margin of 550 for the install cable and configuration. I can then add this as a contract ad, as a ticket ad for potentially a project, or directly into the projects hub as well, because you can tie tickets to projects and vice versa. But let's go ahead and say this is going to be a contract product, right? And I'm going to go ahead and activate this, right? So any one-time sales items that you would then potentially want to build out for invoicing on a month-over-month basis, you can certainly add those products and then add that to that client. And they are fully searchable, so anything that you create. So if I were to look at NAS, I can see here I have one build out for a Synology and one build out for a QNAP. So if I had any particular ad for a client before I sent out the invoicing, I could then add those as a specific item. And we'll show that once we do a invoicing billing run, how that is easily done. Let's go ahead and talk next about sales items. So within sales items, we can see here that on the first of every month, right, Acronis is going to automatically pull over all the utilization for consumed services within each tenant that we have provisioned and, of course, tied in to Acronis PSA. We can see here the invoice date, the total, and then, of course, the status is pending, not yet billed. If I did a manual run at any point in time that was outside of that first of the month run, I could see that invoice date and time, and this was maybe a one-time build that is outside of the scope of normal cadenced billing. Let's go ahead and talk about, once we have these things, what can we see? So let's pop in and see the viewable items. So we can see the SKUs, the quantity, and the price for the consumed services for, in this case, AAA design. Right? So I could, certainly add another product or another item to that, right? Or add a one-time to that, certainly. But of course, this is all yet to be money realized. So how do we kind of understand where we stand with this actual number as it's represented? So we can go into our reporting tool. So underneath sales and billing, in order to understand better those sales items, right, for that set of customers, we can actually go into a pre-configured report, right? So within here, this is what we call our expense report, and I'm able to see a customizable set of what we call widgets at Acronis. So this can be sorted by all customers or specific customers, specific products, and a period of time. So I could, it's natively going to grab the previous month, but I could grab maybe an annual expense report if I want to view that in that way, certainly. And I can see all of the tenants that I have this provisioned against and all their consumed services. And I can see that there's might be some discrepancy here between, cost and revenue being tighter than we might like. And let's take a look at Harrison Contracting. And in this, we can see here that we have SAT provisioned, right? But we have a cost of $1.15, but we do not have an actual price. So ostensibly, we have 254 seats of security awareness training going out at a cost to my organization of $1.15, but I'm recouping nothing. So there is I can view that I'm under, right? So I've improperly billed or improperly added a cost or a line item to something within potentially one or more than one client. This is even easier to represent rather than just from this format, as we can export it via Excel. So let's go ahead and do so we can see that, of course, in Excel, I'm able to sort these things and view these things a lot easier, right? So rather than dealing with just an interface, something that is more malleable, right, and more editable, as the other is just representative data, right? So if I change items, what that would actually look like via this export via Excel. So again, we're trying to add a multitude of ways to ease the burden of expense and sales and billing by having these types of reports and the capability to export to Excel. So let's talk about some more advanced capabilities, right? So let's dive into invoicing next. Let's go back to our sales and billing hub. From within here, we can see invoices. So all of these sales items would then be able to be invoiced, right? So let's go ahead and kick off a invoicing run, right? So let's go ahead and generate a new invoice. We'll do it for the current time. So we're going to be looking at uh, potentially a specific client. So, normally you'd be grabbing all of these in a batch. You wouldn't have any legacy data within here. You'd be grabbing the most recent and running that as a batch, right? But let's go ahead and grab the most recent here for Superior Dental. And maybe there's some sales items I want to make sure I'm grabbing all of those that are for the appropriate time period for Superior Dental. So let's go ahead and jump into sales items, right? So maybe we need to grab a specific time frame, or maybe there's some things we need to exclude. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll flip the invoicing date here quickly. Go down to Superior Dental. We'll grab our most recent. And so we can see here, if I grab one sales item for Superior Dental for that invoice range, it's going to natively grab all of them. So you see, automatically it grabbed 11 selected items. Let's go ahead and kick off this invoicing run. Before I'm going to want to approve any sort of invoice that I've generated, I can go ahead and review it. And you're able to download that. Show you exactly what that looks like. So for this, we'll zoom in here to make this just a little bit easier to see. We can see all of the quantities, the price, any taxation that might be against it, and then of course the finalization of billing. Of note, all of these invoices that you would send out are all white label as well. So you can fully strip this out and customize this, adding your company logo. If there is a header or footer that is compliancy restrictive, as we see in some governmental billings, you can add those headers or footers to the invoice themselves, so that when we send these over, everything falls in line compliancy-wise as well. So let's go ahead and say that these are correct. Go ahead and generate those. And we can see here that we have those invoices generated. Uh, right now they are via email, right? So there are, of course, a few ways in which these can go over. However, once we have run that batch, right, and reviewed, we can see that there's a few different pieces that are going to now be in play. So we certainly have a multitude of integrations, right? So in that way, we can have integrated third-party invoicing kick in. So anything that I would generate as a invoice would kick over to my integration that I may have. So let's go ahead and review the integrations that we have at present, because this does cover the major players when it comes to finance and billing, so that are being used in the market. So FreshBooks, QuickBooks, Sage, and others. So any of those that you may be using, we are able to, again, take that invoice, automatically push it over via the configuration through the integration, and then send out the invoice from there as well. So if we did not want to send it from the Acronis console, we could certainly have those integrated pieces help us in that way. Let's go back to now reviewing. Let's hop into contracts. Right, so things can be even more complex when it comes to how we are billing our clients, right? So We can bundle services. We can create contracts that have a lot of malleable, manipulable parts for us to engage. So let's go ahead and review contracts. We can see here we have a contract in place. From within that contract, I do have some contract parts. I can add, again, a bundle, and bundles are something where you can create a mass amount of services, or I can add individual contract parts if they maybe are engaging another contract portion that they weren't previously in that contract, so we're going to add something to it. We're also able to review the contract history and methodology. So first thing is the payment details. So we're going to do this every month in an afterwards way. This could be manual or automatic or direct debit. We can see that the invoices are going to be sent via email or via mail, which would be the option if you are going to have that integration with, say, Sage or QuickBooks. We'd have it via mail where it actually gets sent over to that invoicing console, and the invoice would then be sent out from QuickBooks once approved. We can see here if we're going to add potential block hours for billing service desk time or things of that nature. We are able to edit these and change these as we are need to do so. Let's go ahead and dive now into editing certain portions of a contract, right? So there are things even within line items of a contract that are editable. So if we're looking at data backup, potentially, let's go ahead and edit this. So we actually are able to put a minimum commitment or minimum quantity of a specific type of service. So in this, we have a default minimum that I build out. And you can see the actual consumed quantity through the Acronis console actually superseded that. So the billable quantity was X, the monthly amount was Y based upon the price. If these were to be under quantity, so let's change the minimum to 15,000 rather than 500, and we can see that it's going to take that versus the price. And even though they were below this, we are selling data in a blocked methodology, where we're selling hours in a blocked methodology, and even though they may not have consumed all those help desk hours, that we are billing that out, and they have that minimum commitment. And then, of course, any overages would be billed accordingly. So again, changing this back to 500, they are certainly over that minimum quantity and thus billed for the usage. Let's go ahead now and move to other portions of the contracts in some of the other advanced billing pieces here, because there are certainly other third-party services that could be within these contract pieces. And with that, we are talking about things like a VAR integration with Microsoft CSP, right? So if we're going to add that as part of our contract and part of our billable portion, we can do that. So with that all being said, right, so once we have our contracts or our invoicing, our billing all configured the way we like it, this is very much a set it and forget it process. Obviously, again, if we need to add to on the fly, we can. But now that we have all those portions understood, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other reporting pieces that tie directly into everything that we've done up until this point, right? So back to reports, we'll go into sales and billing. And now let's talk about the gross profit by customer or the gross profit summary, right? So first, let's look at a per customer report, right? So it will be an individualized customer. And we can see here, again, we have some issues potentially in our billing, and we can then deduce in a historical sense, again, across the year or specific month in play, which of course can be altered. So if we wanted rather a singular month rather than, a multitude of months or a quarter, we could do so. And we can see here our total revenue, our costs, our profit, and our profit margin, right? And this is all going to be viewable by individualized customer, right? So I can dive through each one and see where I would stand versus the things that I've invoiced and billed, right? So let me actually track who are my big spenders, where I potentially might have some areas where I could expand to increase my profit per tenant engaged, whether that be by service or by cost. Let's look at a profit summary, if we will. So within that profit summary, we use this to dive into and quickly scan and review all of these things that are leveraged, right, in sales and billing reporting, right? So I can see a lot of individual portions that lead me to this gross profit, and we can, of course, view this in several different ways: a month over month, a quarterly review, or again, an annual review of all of those consumed services. Whether or not there's going to be one-time ads or services that we are going to have engaged or disengaged, we can see then a macro approach to this profit summary of this organization, again, sortable by those various timeframes. There are some other pieces here that I would like to review here quickly. With that being said, let's talk quickly about service desk and ticketing. So let's go to task management. So within task management, we want to be able to talk about, first and foremost, that this is, in fact, again, a full suite of PSA. So with that, let's talk about some of the functions, the tickets, the task management, time tracking, all, of course, feed into this, multiple billing options, such as building out blocks of hours to build against, i.e. support or help desk hours, SLA settings, and more. Let's talk about ticketing first. So there's a few different ways ticketings and tickets can be generated. So the first way is an email ticket conversion. We do that by adding the email server to the Acronis PSA, so that when they would email your support distro potentially, that would then generate a ticket underneath their specific partnership. So I would see ones for AAA design. I would see ones for, a Acronis Solutions partner level or a specific tenant therein. And much like other tools, we're able to sort of customize and create our board in a way that we want to view this, right? Um, and where these tickets may be standing. The next way that tickets can be generated, of course, is via a technician response. So, I can generate a new ticket, right, from a phone call or some other methodology, or maybe I'm on site and I'm going to generate a ticket from the application or from my laptop. I can generate a ticket, assign it to myself, and work it as such. We also have a new ticketing source here under settings. And if we go to service desk, we can see here that potentially there are unknown users to the PSA tool, right? A new user may be added to an organization or somebody just being turned up in that way. What we are able to do is actually have a custom URL ticketing portal that's per partner, right? So let's look at what that looks like to generate what they would see on the customer portal side if they logged into your ticketing portal. So I would see here, let's just set up a test ticket, right? And we will just do. So we can build out, and we have some test data that we could throw in there. If they need to add attachments, they certainly can, and submit. One thing that you will notice here is that in order to block your ticketing portal, since it's obviously a external facing URL, it is protected by Google reCAPTCHA, right, to block spam. Right, so we certainly don't want that to be flooded, right? So we don't want that to become a potential source of pain. So I could go ahead and create this, and you can see there that I was able to add a attachment if I needed to, or a screenshot. Let's go ahead back to the ticketing portion, and we can see that test ticket generated. So in that way, we are able to also generate tickets. Look at that. We're able to generate tickets from that support portal as well. Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you again on the next iteration of the Acronis PSA review.